For centuries, one spice has had this amazing nickname, red gold. Just hearing it makes you think of luxury, rarity, maybe even treasure. So what's the real story behind these little crimson threads? Let's dive in and find out why they have this almost mythical status.
Okay, so let's get right to the biggest claim you always hear about saffron, that it's worth more than its weight in gold. It's a great line for sure, but is it actually true?
Well, the numbers don't lie, and the answer is a clear nope. Not even close, actually. While top-shelf saffron is super expensive, we're talking $5 to $30 a gram, it just can't compete with gold, which is sitting at $60 to $75. But that brings up a much more interesting question. If it's not literally more valuable than gold, why on earth is it so pricey? The real answer is way more fascinating than the myth.
The secret to saffron's price tag isn't just about it being rare. It's really a biological and agricultural bottleneck. It all comes down to a very, very particular plant and a harvest that has stayed the same, completely defying modern technology for over 3,000 years.
So, meet the saffron crocus, Crocus sativus. Now, the wild thing about this flower is that it's sterile. It's a clone. It can't make seeds, which means it doesn't even exist in the wild. Its entire survival depends on people manually digging up its bulbs, splitting them, and replanting them by hand. Just think about that for a second. Every single saffron plant in the world is a genetic copy, and it only exists because we keep it going. The harvest itself, though, this is where things get truly intense. For just 2 or 3 weeks a year, the fields explode in purple, and that kicks off this frantic race against time. Every single flower has to be picked by hand, in the dark, before the sun comes up. So why the crazy rush? Well, sunlight actually degrades the delicate chemicals in the threads, basically ruining their flavor, aroma, and all of their value.
And once the flowers are picked, the really brutal work begins. Inside each of those delicate little flowers, you find exactly 3. Just 3 of these tiny crimson threads. That's it. That's the entire haul from one flower.
Now, let's try to scale that up. For just 1 gram of saffron, that tiny little jar you might see at the store, workers have to pick around 150 flowers by hand, and then they have to tweeze out all 450 of those little threads one by one.
And for a kilogram? Oh, the numbers just get ridiculous. You are looking at a bare minimum of 150,000 flowers. Some people say it's closer to 200,000. Try to picture an entire football field covered in these purple flowers. That's about what it takes.
So let's just put all that math together. To get 1 single kilogram of saffron, you need up to 200,000 flowers. You need over 40 hours of really intense, skilled labor. And a whole hectare of land, again, think a football pitch, only gets you 2 to 4 kilograms. No machine can do this delicate work. It's all powered by human hands. And that, right there, is the real reason for its incredible price.
But wait, the story doesn't stop in the field. To really understand the price of saffron, you have to zoom out and look at the global supply chain. And what you find is a world shaped by geopolitics, sanctions, and a pretty complicated shadow economy. Get this. The global supply chain has this one staggering fact at its core. Over 90% of the world's entire saffron supply is grown in just one country, Iran. This crazy concentration makes the entire market incredibly vulnerable to the politics and the economy of that one region.
And here's the geopolitical twist. Because of international economic sanctions, Iranian businesses are often cut off from direct trade and banking with big markets in Europe and North America. So you have the world's biggest producer unable to easily sell to some of the world's biggest consumers. This creates a huge problem, but also a huge opportunity for anyone in the middle. So this has created a system people call saffron laundering. It's basically a way to hide where the saffron really comes from. Here's how it works. Bulk saffron from Iran is shipped to places like Dubai or more often Spain. There, it gets repackaged, relabeled as product of Spain, and then sold to the rest of the world at a massive markup. I mean, the proof is right there. Spain exports way more saffron than it actually grows. It's a clear sign of this huge relabeling industry.
So this complex kind of shadowy supply chain leads to one major problem for you, the person actually buying it: fraud. Because wherever there's that much value, you're going to find fakes. So let's talk about how you can avoid getting totally ripped off. And the scale of this problem is just shocking. It's estimated that up to 30%, 1/3 of all the saffron being sold on the global market is either fake or has been cut with other stuff. This is not a small issue. It's a huge crisis for the industry.
So what are you actually buying then? Well, the methods are pretty sneaky. Counterfeiters will use cheaper things that just look like saffron, like safflower or even dyed corn silk. Sometimes they'll take saffron that's already been used, so it has no flavor left, and just re-dye it to sell it again. Or, even simpler, they'll just spray it with oil or honey to make it heavier because, it's sold by weight.
So how do you protect yourself? Okay, here are the key things to look for. Number 1, always buy whole threads. Never ever buy powder. It's just way too easy to fake. Real, authentic thread should be all red and shaped like a tiny little trumpet. If you see yellow or white bits, that's a bad sign. Real saffron should smell sweet, kind of like honey and hay, but it'll taste a little bitter. And finally, just trust your gut on the price. If a deal seems way too good to be true, it absolutely is. There's just no way to sell authentic saffron for only a few dollars a gram.
So after all this, where does red gold go from here? Well, this ancient spice is now facing two of the most powerful forces of our time: a rapidly changing climate and seriously disruptive technology.
The traditional places where saffron grows are under extreme threat. The very specific climate it needs, those hot summers and cold winters, is getting all messed up. In places like Kashmir, yields have already crashed by over 65% because of wild weather patterns and water shortages.
But where there's a crisis, there's innovation. And that's leading us to a whole new frontier: vertical farming. Inside these high-tech, controlled environments, growers can create the perfect climate for saffron 24/7. This means they can get multiple harvests a year, not just one, and they can guarantee top-grade quality every single time, completely safe from the chaos of a changing climate outside.
This tech leap couldn't have come at a better time, because saffron is also finding a totally new identity far away from the kitchen. We're talking about huge industries like pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, and nutraceuticals. They all need a level of quality and consistency that traditional farming can't always guarantee. They want standardized extracts for things like mood-enhancing supplements or pure antioxidant compounds for high-end skincare. And at the same time, technology is also fighting back against fraud. There are now AI models that can spot a fake with 99% accuracy just from a photo.
And this quote from a market analysis report, man, it just says it all. The biggest drivers of growth for saffron aren't paella and biryani anymore. They're pills and skin creams. We are literally watching red gold change its entire identity.
So this all leads us to one final, really important question. As saffron transforms from this ancient spice, picked by hand under an autumn moon, into a standardized compound grown in a sterile lab, what happens to its story, to its culture? What happens to its soul? That, I think, is the ultimate question for the future of red gold.